Hello and welcome to the video. This is a quick video to answer this question from this chap here. Now, he's been out of the hobby for 10 years, which is a very long time in the world of radio control. And he asked if I could do kind of a summary of what's changed over the last 10 years. And that's really tricky without spending kind of a 4-hour presentation. But I thought I'd distill it down into kind of the headlines so that you can follow along. And hopefully, if you're relatively new into the hobby, this will be interesting for you too. Now, I will also put links down below to some of the latest build series. If you are coming back into the hobby and you haven't played around with it for a while, building and flying radio control stuff, things like my iNav for Beginners series, quad building for beginners, Ardu plane build for beginners, Ardu heli build for beginners. There's loads of different series that I've done. And I like to aim them at those of you that are relatively new to this. Don't forget, there's also things like the RC Basics and Motor and Prop beginners. There's loads of stuff. Check out the playlists and you'll find lots of information. But as we're going to talk about what's happened over the last 10 years, let me kind of give you my headlines. So to frame this, let's talk about the fact that the quad racing bubble burst. Depending on where you were and what you were flying 10 years ago, you may not be aware of this, but there was a lot of interest in quad racing becoming the next spectator sport, if I can even say it. Fortunately, it didn't really work out that way. We had lots of people coming into the hobby, trying to jump on the bandwagon, producing products, motors, props, frames, all kinds of things were coming out as everyone desperately tried to get a piece of that pie. That bubble then burst, and that was actually a really good thing, because what happened is it cleared away all the people who were only here trying to make a buck, and the people who remained were the people who were actually passionate about the hobby and really wanted to be involved in it. So it actually ended up being a good thing. There has been more and more of a move to open source in the past 10 years as well. Looking at radio manufacturers 10 years ago, you know, it was the usual suspects. It was your Futaba, it was your Spectrum. It's then people like FreeSky were doing things with OpenTX. Fast forward to now, we'll get into more detail in this in a minute. HTX has really become the default choice for big parts of the hobby. HTX is the new version of OpenTX. It was updated. The HTX project, for many, many reasons that we don't have time to get into today, became very stale, and lots of people were dissatisfied with the way it was being used, particularly by people like FreeSky. So it was copied, rewrote and re-engineered into HTX. And that's what pretty much all of the modern radios are running now. And HTX is a fantastic operating system. Can still be overly complex for many, which is why some people still like the FreeSky ethos and some of the others. But for lots of people flying the hobby, it's kind of all designed to work together. In the past 10 years as well, we used to have this issue with, you know, people calling flying models drones, and that was a negative connotation. It's much worse now because of the reporting of areas of conflict where UAVs and drones are being used as weapons of war. Sadly, it does mean that all those negative connotations have bled over into the hobby, and that has resulted in more legislation. So if you want to be legal and continue to fly, there are a few more hoops that you have to jump through, sadly. But what has happened since the bubble burst with the quad racing thing is there has been thousands and thousands of hours going into refining all of the firmware that we use. Things like Betaflight, iNav, RD Pilot, some of that stuff was kicking around potentially when you were playing with it 10 years ago. But also the products that are coming out now, people seem to have stepped away from the as soon as it's almost ready, ship it out. They seem to be taking a little bit more time. VTOL was one of the last big things in 2023 that the hobby got all excited about. It's taken until last year, 2025, for me to get a hobby grade VTOL in that actually worked, and that was the Argus FPV Rockwing. Every other VTOL I've had in here has been fundamentally flawed. So that's maybe a bad example, but it is the exception to the rule that most of the stuff I get in these days just kind of works. So let's get into a little bit of the weeds and get into specific things that have changed in specific areas. First one is going to be radios and receivers. check out my reviews, check out the HTX for Beginners series. There's another one which will take you through what HTX is and how it works. If you're familiar with OpenTX, if you were playing with that back in the day, HTX is going to feel very, very familiar, but it's got a lot of additional functionality. The choice for HTX powered radios these days is pretty dizzying. You can get everything from little handheld gamer style ones that don't have a screen, right the way up to big massive radios with big colour touch screens and everything in between. I have my own favourites. I'll probably be doing a video in a couple of months which will be my kit picks, but I use Radio Master pretty much exclusively here now. I was a big FreeSky fan, but for me, Radio Master and HTX are a fantastic combo for the modern hobby. On the other side, there's a project called Express LRS, or you'll commonly hear it referred to as ELRS. That is a LoRa-based radio system that's been around for a relatively short period of time, but has taken the hobby by storm. Historically, you bought your radio and that meant you had to buy the compatible receivers from your vendor, well, whether that was Jetty, Spectrum, FrSky, whoever. These days, with Express LRS, because everyone builds the hardware to the same standards, you can buy your receivers from anybody. There is no more vendor lock-in with Express LRS, and that is part of the reason that a big part of the hobby has run towards it with open arms. We're now on version 4 of Express LRS. It's a great system. Still a couple of wrinkles in my humble opinion, but as a default way to talk to everything, it's fab. Many of the bind and fly things, which historically in the old days would come out with a FrSky D16 and a crossfire option on, or maybe no receiver at all, most of them these days will come default with an Express LRS receiver inside. That also means that there's less use now of things like the multi-protocol module. One of the things that was introduced that you may have missed if you left the hobby 10 years ago was the multi-protocol modules were a way that you could put a module in the back of your OpenTX radio or HTX powered radio, and you could still talk to your Futaba, FreeSky, Spectrum, whatever receivers, as well as potentially bind to older bind and fly models as well. As the whole hobby moves more wholeheartedly to Express LRS, there's less use of that. I used to love my 4-in-1, but I don't use it very often these days because everything just has Express LRS in and I just bind to it and away I go. In terms of the flight controllers, many of the names that you're going to bump into as you look at things like my INAV for Beginners series, those kind of things, are going to be ones that you've heard of before. Lots of new vendors are starting to come into the market because China has been clamping down on the export of some products, particularly things like flight controllers, because they are being used in areas of conflict towards its buddies. That does mean that things like SpeedyBee, which for me were the default choice for kind of the last 5 years, can be tricky to get hold of. However, what's starting to happen is some manufacturers, like Holybro, for example, appear to have opened up offices and facilities outside of China, which means that they can go back to free supply. So just be aware of that. We are in a little bit of a flux change at the moment, and that means that some of the things that used to be easy to get hold of can be a bit tricky and vice versa. Lots more focus on all-in-one flight controllers. 10 years ago, if you wanted to build a really capable quadcopter or plane, you had maybe 6 or 7 PCBs in there. These days, the flight controllers are very, very smart. Everything is integrated onto the flight controller, so you may have to solder your pins on, but apart from that, then everything is going to be plugged in. And it's also easier to set up the flight controllers as well. Things like iNav, Betaflight and ArduPilot continue to be updated and evolve, and these days are pretty easy to set up. If you follow along with one of my For Beginners series, you'll get to the end, and if you don't skip stuff, it'll just work. Other electronics to talk about, speed controllers have gone through a little bit of an interesting time over the past 3 or 4 years. Everything was BL Heli S back in the day and BL Heli 32. These days, those projects were impacted by the whole dual use thing and UAVs being used in areas of conflict. AM32 is the project that's kind of replaced them. You'll find that most ESCs, modern ESCs being built now that are new in design will be running AM32. AM32 still supports D-Shot and all those kind of wonderful things, those digital protocols, which again means that you don't have to do things like calibration, and the update speed to ESC is super duper quick. Quality as well in the ESC seem to have improved. I've noticed that the ESC ratings historically, like some of the battery ratings, used to be a bit enthusiastic. These days they tend to be a lot more reliable in terms of what they can do with the number that's printed on the front. FPV has undergone a massive change in the last 10 years. Pretty much everyone was flying analog 10 years ago, and then DJI burst onto the scene with their very first HD FPV system. And like that first 4-minute mile, everyone realized it could be done and started doing it. These days, there are kind of three main horses in this particular race. There's the DJI systems. The DJI O4 is the latest generation. I've used it. It's fantastic. The technology is amazing, but DJI don't work very well with a lot of the other projects like iNav and other bits and pieces. It's up to those projects like iNav, Betaflight and ArduPilot to make it work with DJI rather than the other way around. What's now my personal favorite is the DJI system for people who are not fans of DJI, but works incredibly well and is very closely integrated with all of the flight control systems. You've got HD0, which again is a fantastic system and has very low latency. That's why quad racers really love it. And then you have lots of other people who've jumped on the bandwagon in the last kind of 18 months, 2 years as well. People like Ruby FPV, OpenIPC have been around for a while. There's projects, but then you've got things like T3 and you've got things like ArtLink, and they're different options, but in terms of the market share and those who have enough market share to maintain viability in the longer term, you're probably at the moment looking at the top three, unless you want to get into some of the open source stuff like Ruby and OpenIPC. The supply chain stuff has changed a lot as well. Back 10 years ago, we were all buying an awful lot of our stuff from people like Hobby King. That has changed. When that racing bubble burst, a lot of the shops that had jumped on the bandwagon closed up shop as well. And then Hobby King went through a really tricky time, and they're still trying to figure out how to get back to where they were 10 years ago. And what happened was a lot of that business flicked into Chinese warehouses. Your AliExpress, your Banggood, those kind of people started selling a lot of radio control product and parts. And unfortunately, that meant that the prices were below what UK, well, hobby shops globally really could support. So that's forced a lot of the local hobby shops to close as well, including my own Steve Webb's, which was my local one over in Frodsham here in Cheshire in the UK. That closed last year. And, you know, I was in mourning for about a week when that happened, because there isn't really a replacement for having somebody that you can go and talk to. Or if you have a particular part, just going in and showing it to them, and they'll root through the drawers and packets and find you a replacement that's going to be perfect. Some of the components have got a lot more expensive, things like the IMUs and some of the CPUs. So some of the prices of things like flight controllers, which were cheap as chips like 4 or 5 years ago, have risen dramatically. In fact, I was talking to a manufacturer as I'm recording this only this week about potentially releasing a new flight controller. And at the moment, they can't kind of make it for a low enough price that it would sell in volume. So they're hanging on until the prices come down. But that does mean that some of the stuff that we were enjoying, where it was, you know, £20 flight controller and £20 GPS, you might be able to get the GPS for that now, but definitely not a flight controller. So that's a whistle-stop tour. An awful lot of things have changed in the past 10 years, but an awful lot of it has stayed the same. The use of hobby-grade components and UAVs and drones in places of conflict have really increased the visibility of what a radio-controlled system can do. And some of the stuff that has been developed for us here in the hobby have then been taken and used in those environments as well. And that wasn't the whole point of that stuff being developed. It's kind of been co-opted for that. Not a lot has been changing year to year. I do a kit picks list every August, every year, and there's only 5 or 6 things getting changed on about 8 slides. So in terms of what I love, what I really like, the innovation, the stuff that I would recommend, it's not really changing that much. So check out the kit picks list from last year. I will also do, like I said, another one this year about August 2026. The last big round of innovation in the hobby was all of that HD FPV stuff, and it's still kind of shaking out now. There is a little bit of consolidation will probably need to happen in the also-rans, but for most pilots, it's a big argument about who is better. Don't be drawn into the whole who is better and best. Every single one of those HD FPV systems has strengths, but also flaws, and what you fly, how you fly, and how much money you want to spend, and whether or not you want a system that's going to be supported in 3 years is going to kind of dictate your choice. There is more laws and regulations, sadly, now as a result of all of that additional exposure that the hobby has got, most of it negative. The press loved talking about drone stuff, but that does mean that you can still fly and enjoy the hobby, but there's a couple of more hoops to jump through if you want to be legal. And sadly, there's still quite a lot of resistance from lots of the old guard, the balsa, doping, glow and IC engine crowd, who own a lot of the hobby areas, the old RC clubs, towards the new technology. So things like foam-based planes, quads and FPV are considered the devil's work. Those are kind of getting out the way. Unfortunately, new blood isn't coming in, so we're also losing some of those flight areas as well. So if you are one of the old guard, please, please, please try and convert your brothers in the hobby to try some of the new technology. Because my experience is pilots who think FPV is the devil's work, when they've tried it, have actually come away from the experience really, really loving it and impressed. And I've had lots of experiences where I've tried something in the hobby I wasn't sure about and found a new area that I really love. An open mind is really important in this hobby, and unfortunately those open minds aren't always available in some of the local clubs. But in summary, it is far easier now to build and fly radio controlled aircraft. The improvements in the flight controllers and the technology and the firmware and all of the support and flying hours that have gone into everything, the tens of thousands of hours that have gone into everything over the last 10 years, means that these days it's now so simple to build something and get it in the air. So if you are interested in getting back into the hobby, it's a fab time. Just be aware that maybe a little bit of regulation, some kind of certificate or something that you need to get, but once you have that, you can have an awful lot of fun. Thank you for watching my video. Check out the playlist, and adding Pedantry 60 to your search terms will help you find my content. If you haven't done so already, please hit the like and subscribe button. It helps a lot. You can support the time I spend here answering questions and helping others by using the links in the video description.